Hello everyone, have a nice day. Today we will explore the story of James, who secretly leaves his hiding place in the forest to follow his powerful and dangerous father to a quiet cafe in town. James is terrified that just one conversation between his father and his friend Phat could put Diep's life at risk because his father is willing to use anyone to control his son. From a dark corner, James watches every move, afraid of what his father might do next, until Phat makes a brave choice that changes everything. If you find this emotional journey interesting, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. James almost forgot how to breathe. From the darkest corner of the cafe, hidden behind a wooden pillar and a pot of tired-looking plants, he watched his father and Phat sit opposite each other like two men about to sign a quiet war. Daylight poured through the big glass windows, bright and harmless, making the whole scene look ordinary. People laughed, spoons clinked against cups, a barista called out an order. Yet at that table near the window, one wrong word could destroy Diep's safety. James sat hunched in his black leather jacket, black cap pulled low, his fingers wrapped so tightly around his coffee cup that his knuckles went white. From where he sat, he could see his father's profile clearly, sharp suit, sharper eyes, the calm control that had ruined so many lives. And today, his father was talking about Diep, about him, about how to reach them. You're close to them, aren't you? His father's lips formed the words slowly, voice low, almost casual. Especially Diep. James couldn't hear everything over the cafe noise, but he'd grown up reading that man's face. The slight narrowing of his eyes, the way his fingers tapped once against the table, impatient, demanding answers. Across from him, Phat didn't look like the easygoing friend James knew. His shoulders were stiff, his jaw clenched just a little too long between breaths. He answered respectfully, but his gaze was restless, flicking down to the untouched coffee in front of him. James's heartbeat pounded in his ears. He shouldn't even have been here. Just a few hours ago, he'd been in that abandoned house at the edge of the forest, sitting on the cracked wooden step with sunlight cutting thin lines across the dusty floor. He'd been alone with his thoughts, with the image of Diep's face the last time she told him to run. Then his phone vibrated. An anonymous message. The same unknown contact who had warned him before. Your father is meeting Phat at a cafe in town this afternoon. It might be about Diep and you. Fear had hit him so hard his hands shook. He'd stared at those words, feeling the walls of the abandoned house closing in. His father and Phat in the same place, in broad daylight, talking about him and Diep. That could only mean danger, pressure, a deal. He stood up immediately, pulled on his black jacket, dragged his cap low over his eyes, and checked his reflection in a cracked piece of glass. Not James and the hunted son, just another nameless man in a cafe. He had left the forest and walked toward town with one thought in his mind. If they were going to talk about Diep, he had to hear it. He had to be there. Now here he was, hidden in the corner, watching it unfold. His father leaned forward over the table, his expression turning colder, voice dropping even lower. James couldn't catch the exact sentence, but he could guess. Was Diep still in contact with James? Did she know where he was hiding? Was she still on his side, or could she be used as a weapon against him? James's fingers curled into fists under the table. If Phat gave even one hint, if he slipped and revealed that Diep still cared, that she was still waiting, his father would go after her again, harder than before, and this time James might not be able to protect her. "Please, don't betray her," James begged silently. "Don't sell her out, not her." Phat's eyes lowered to his coffee cup. He didn't touch it. There was a long silence. Then James saw it happen. Phat inhaled slowly, like a man making peace with a decision he didn't want to make. When he lifted his head again, his expression had changed. The tension was still there, but his gaze had steadied. His voice, though James couldn't hear it clearly, looked calmer, firmer. James watched his lips move. Diep gave up. Doesn't want trouble. I want a normal life. Doesn't want to be involved. The shape of the sentences was clear enough for James to read. The lie cut him like a knife. Even as a lie, the words hurt. Diep giving up on him? Diep choosing a quiet life without his mess? He knew it wasn't true. He knew how her hands had trembled when she told him to run, how her eyes had begged him to live, even if it meant leaving her behind. But Phat said it anyway, not with the look of a traitor, but with the careful calm of someone building a shield. He didn't mention where Diep lived. He didn't mention who she was with. He didn't mention how she still looked toward the road as if James might return at any moment. He just painted a picture that would make James's father lose interest. At the table, James's father frowned, processing the story. The suspicion in his eyes didn't disappear completely, but it softened. His gaze shifted from sharp, hunting anger to cold evaluation. So Diep had let go. So she didn't want anything to do with James anymore. So she was no longer useful as leverage. For the first time in a very long while, James felt the invisible hand strangling his chest. Loosen. He exhaled. Not the shallow, shaky breaths he'd been surviving on for weeks, but a real, quiet breath that reached all the way down to the bottom of his lungs. At that table by the window, Phat kept talking, building the lie carefully. His shoulders were still tense, but he didn't flinch. He held his ground, and in the shadowed corner of the cafe, hidden beneath his black cap, James understood. Phat wasn't just answering questions. He was choosing a side. James stared at him, eyes burning, gratitude fighting with guilt in his throat. There, in that noisy cafe filled with strangers and sunlight, while his father slowly let go of the idea of using Diep, James finally breathed easier because someone had just lied to protect the woman he loved. James didn't move even after their conversation ended. From his corner, he watched his father stand up first, smooth down his suit jacket, and walk out with that same cold confidence that had haunted James his whole life. The door swung shut behind him, the sound swallowed by the cafe's music and chatter. Only then did Phat push his chair back. He didn't rush after James's father. Instead, he stepped outside and stopped right at the edge of the sidewalk, one hand braced against the wall. Through the glass, James saw his shoulders rise and fall in a long, heavy breath. Up close, Phat didn't look like the calm, steady man from a few minutes ago. He looked exhausted. He tilted his head back slightly, eyes closed, jaw tight as if he were holding back something: fear, regret, maybe both. His fingers rubbed his forehead once, slow and tired, like someone trying to wipe away a decision that would stay with him for a long time. James's chest tightened. This was the cost of that lie. "Thank you, Phat," he whispered to himself, lips barely moving, "for putting yourself between him and her." He wanted to go out there, clap a hand on Phat's shoulder, tell him he wasn't alone, but showing his face now would drag Phat deeper into a battle he never asked for. So James stayed hidden, watching silently as Phat finally straightened, pushed himself off the wall, and walked away down the noisy street like any ordinary man after an ordinary meeting. Only when Phat disappeared into the crowd did James stand. He paid for his coffee, kept his cap low, and stepped outside. The town was still bright, the afternoon light softer now, stretching shadows longer across the pavement. Motorbikes rumbled past, vendors called out prices, a child laughed nearby. Yet the world felt lighter, because for once, his father had walked away without a new plan to hurt Diep. James headed out of town, choosing to walk part of the way. The road slowly shifted from concrete to dusty paths, buildings giving way to fields and thin lines of trees. The sunshine slid lower in the sky, turning warmer, gentler. Phat's words replayed in his mind. She gave up on James. She wants a normal life. Lies, every one of them. But they were the kind of lies that shielded, not shattered. "I'm sorry, Diep," he thought, staring at the fading sun. "Because of me, other people have to lie. Because of me, you have to live quietly and watch every step." The countryside opened up in front of him. By the time he reached the familiar small path leading toward the bamboo house, the sky had shifted to orange and pink. Crickets had started their chorus, and a soft breeze moved through the leaves. He slowed down. He couldn't walk straight up and knock on the door like nothing was wrong. His father still existed. The danger was still real. But for tonight, at least, she was safer than she'd been that morning. So James chose the shadows. He moved along the side of the path, slipping behind a cluster of trees and wild bushes. From there, he could see the bamboo house clearly without stepping into the open. And there she was. Diep stood in front of the house, gathering clothes from the line before night fully settled in. Her hair was simply tied back, her outfit modest and familiar. The last light of the day wrapped around her, outlining her in gold. Every small gesture, folding a shirt, brushing dust off a sleeve, pausing to touch the leaves of the plants she cared for, felt like a quiet miracle. James leaned his shoulder against a tree, letting the sight of her steady him. He wanted to shout her name. He wanted to tell her, "You're safe for now. He thinks you've let me go. Phat lied for you, for us." But he stayed where he was. From his hiding place, he let his gaze soften for the first time in weeks. The tight coil of fear inside him loosened, replaced by something warmer and steadier. "I'm not fighting alone anymore," he promised silently. Someone stood up for you today, and as long as I'm still breathing, I will too. Diep finished folding the clothes and stepped inside. Warm light glowed through the bamboo walls, a small, fragile world of peace in the middle of everything. James watched until her shadow disappeared. Only then did he turn back toward the dim path, evening settling around him. His steps were still careful, his future still uncertain, but inside, one truth had anchored itself like a quiet vow. He finally knew he wasn't alone. And one day, when all of this was over, he wouldn't be hiding in the shadows watching Diep from afar. He would be standing beside her in the open without fear.
Tập phim này theo chân James khi anh một mình trốn trong ngôi nhà bỏ hoang ở bìa rừng, bị ám ảnh bởi những suy nghĩ về Diệp, cho đến khi một tin nhắn nặc danh cảnh báo anh rằng cha anh sẽ gặp Phat tại một quán cà phê trong thị trấn. Ngụy trang trong chiếc áo khoác và mũ đi ăn, James bí mật quan sát từ một góc nhìn. Người cha quyền lực của anh hỏi Phat về Diệp, và James dưới sự áp lực dữ dội, Phat chọn cách nói dối, nói rằng Diệp đã từ bỏ và muốn một cuộc sống yên bình che chở cho cô khỏi việc trở thành một con tốt. Cuối cùng James thở vào nhẹ nhõm khi nhận ra không phải chiến đấu một mình. Sau đó anh nhìn thấy sự kiệt sức lặng lẽ của Phat bên ngoài quán cà phê và cảm thấy vô cùng biết ơn. Đi bộ trở về nhà vùng nông thôn đô hoàng hôn, James quan sát Diệp từ xa tại ngôi nhà tre của cô và âm thầm hứa sẽ tiếp tục bảo vệ cô cho đến khi có thể đứng cùng nhau ngoài trời không sợ hãi.